They see the worn cardigan and the reading glasses. To my daughter's future in-laws, and apparently to Emily herself, I look like a retired high school English teacher living on a pension, which is exactly what I was 30 years ago. I stood in the parking lot of the Riverside Country Club, watching valets park Mercedes and BMWs, and pulled my 20-year-old Honda Accord into a spot near the back. The engagement party, my daughter's big night. I'd been looking forward to this for weeks, ever since Emily called to tell me about Brandon, the wonderful man she'd met at her marketing firm. I straightened my tie in the rearview mirror. The same tie I'd worn to parent-teacher conferences for decades. The suit was Brooks Brothers, but from 1998. I'd kept my weight, so it still fit. I looked, for all intents and purposes, exactly like what everyone assumed I was. The main ballroom was already filling up when I walked in. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, a jazz quartet in the corner. I recognized the venue coordinator, Claire, but she didn't recognize me. Why would she? The property management company handles everything. Dad. Emily appeared, radiant in a cream cocktail dress. She hugged me quickly, her smile tight. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, sweetheart. I held up a small wrapped box. Brought you something. Her eyes flicked to the box, then to my suit, then over my shoulder where I could see Brandon's parents arriving. Designer everything. His mother's jewelry probably cost more than most people's cars. That's sweet, Dad. Why don't you go grab some appetizers? The shrimp is supposed to be amazing. She was already turning away, drawn toward Brandon's family like a moth to flame. I found myself near the bar, nursing a club soda, watching. Emily was introducing Brandon's parents to her friends, her colleagues. I waited for her to bring them over to meet me. She didn't. An hour passed. Speeches began. Brandon's father, Richard Westbrook III, talked about his son's accomplishments. Harvard MBA. Vice president at his hedge fund. Emily's boss spoke about her rising star potential. I waited for someone to introduce me. To acknowledge the father of the bride-to-be. Excuse me, are you with the catering staff? A woman in a Chanel suit appeared at my elbow. Brandon's mother, Patricia. No, I'm... Oh. She looked me up and down. Are you Emily's father? Yes, I'm Tom. Tom Richardson. Pleasure to meet you. I extended my hand. She took it limply. The way you might touch something unclean. I see. Emily mentioned you were a teacher. Retired? Yes, I taught English literature for 32 years. How quaint. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Brandon mentioned Emily's mother passed away? 15 years ago. Cancer. And you raised Emily alone? The question sounded like an accusation. I did my best. Yes, well. Patricia glanced toward where Emily and Brandon were laughing with a group of young professionals. Brandon comes from a very established family. The Westbrooks have been in finance for 4 generations. I do hope Emily understands the expectations that come with marrying into our family. Something cold settled in my stomach. I'm sure Emily is capable of handling any expectations. Of course. Though I must say, when Brandon first mentioned her background, we were concerned. Single-parent household, public school education, state university. She said state university the way someone might say prison. But she's done remarkably well for herself, considering. I took a long sip of my club soda. Considered my response carefully. Emily worked very hard. I'm sure she did. Patricia's attention was already wandering. If you'll excuse me, I need to speak with the caterer about the wine selection. I watched her glide away, and something my late wife Sarah used to say echoed in my mind. Some people are only impressed by what they can see on the surface, Tom. Let them be. The quiet ones always have the last word. The evening wore on. I tried to catch Emily's eye several times, but she was always in motion, always networking, always one conversation away. I overheard snippets. Brandon's mother talking about the wedding venue they had in mind, the Westbrook summer house in the Hamptons, how generous Richard had been to offer to contribute to the wedding. Of course, we'll handle the major expenses, Patricia was saying to a cluster of Emily's friends. I can't imagine Emily's father could contribute much on a teacher's pension. But that's fine. Brandon can certainly afford to take care of his bride. I felt my jaw tighten. I set down my drink and started to move toward Emily. I wanted to talk to my daughter. Wanted to understand when she'd become this person who was ashamed of where she came from. I was halfway across the room when it happened. Brandon appeared at Emily's side, whispered something in her ear. She glanced in my direction, and I saw her face change. Saw something like panic cross her features. She walked over, Brandon in tow, but instead of introducing him properly, she took my elbow and steered me toward a quiet corner near the coat check. Dad, can we talk for a second? Of course. I was hoping to meet Brandon properly, and his family. That's actually what I need to talk to you about. Emily's voice was low, urgent. She glanced over her shoulder. Dad, I need you to leave. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Please don't make a scene. Brandon's family, they're important people. His mother has already made several comments about. She gestured vaguely at my suit, my whole appearance. About the optics. The optics. Dad, they don't understand. They think they have certain expectations about what kind of family Brandon should marry into. And I don't meet those expectations? I kept my voice level, but my heart was pounding. It's just for tonight. Please. The wedding will be different, I promise. But tonight is about making the right impression, and I'm an embarrassment. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. Brandon stepped closer, put a protective hand on Emily's shoulder. Sir, I think what Emily is trying to say is that this is a very important night for our families to connect. Perhaps it would be best if I left? I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. When had she stopped being the little girl who'd cried when other kids made fun of my old car picking her up from school? The teenager who'd proudly told her friends her dad taught her everything she knew about literature? The young woman who'd called me crying from college when she felt out of place among the wealthy kids, and I'd told her that worth wasn't measured in bank accounts? Please, Dad? Her eyes were pleading. Just this once. For me, I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break. Just crack. A fault line. All right, I said quietly. I'll go. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? We'll have lunch, just the two of us. Sure, Emily. I walked toward the exit, my old shoes quiet on the marble floor. I passed the coat check, where I heard the attendant whispering to another staff member. That's the bride's dad. Can you believe she's making him leave? I heard he's basically broke. I kept walking. In the parking lot, I sat in my Honda for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and made a call. Mr. Richardson. Claire Mendoza, the venue coordinator, answered on the second ring. I didn't realize you were here tonight. Is everything all right with the Westbrook party? Everything's fine, Claire. I'm actually calling about something else. I need you to pull up the booking for the engagement party. Of course. Give me just a moment. I heard typing. Okay, I have it here. Party of 150. Booked under Richard Westbrook. Is there an issue with the billing? No issue. I'd like you to check the cancellation policy. A pause. Sir, are you asking to cancel the Westbrook engagement party? It's happening right now. No, Claire. Different event. Pull up the wedding booking. June 15th. More typing. I have it. 200 guests, premium package, ceremony and reception. Booked under Emily Richardson. Sir, the wedding is in 4 months. The cancellation fee would be. I'm aware of the fee. Cancel it. Mr. Richardson, are you sure? This is a significant. I'm sure. Cancel the booking. I'll cover all fees. And Claire? I'd appreciate it if you'd handle this tonight. Before the party ends. Yes, sir. Of course. Will Miss Richardson be rebooking? That's up to her. But not at my expense. I ended the call and sat there, engine off, watching the entrance. Then I made another call. Westfield Properties, Marcus speaking. Marcus, it's Tom Richardson. I need you to draft a notice for the apartment at 142 Park Avenue, Unit 4B. The Richardson property? Mr. Richardson. That's leased to your daughter, Emily Richardson. Are you sure? I'm sure. 30-day notice to vacate. The lease was month to month as a favor. That favor is ending. Sir, I have to advise you that this might cause family. I understand. Draw up the papers. I'll sign them tomorrow. Yes, sir. One more call. This one to my financial advisor. Tom. Wasn't expecting to hear from you tonight. How's the party? Stephen, I need you to freeze the trust fund. Silence. Then, the education trust you set up for Emily's MBA program? That's the one. Freeze it. Effective immediately. Tom, that's $250,000. Are you absolutely certain? She made her choice, Stephen. I'm making mine. I started the car. I'd gotten maybe half a mile down the road when my phone started ringing. Emily. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Again. I turned it off. At home, I changed out of my old suit and poured myself a scotch. The good scotch, Macallan 25, that I kept for special occasions. I sat in my study, surrounded by first edition books and the comfortable clutter of a reader's life. And I waited. The knock came an hour later. Pounding, really? I opened the door to find Emily, still in her cocktail dress, makeup streaked from crying. Brandon stood behind her, looking uncomfortable. Dad, what did you do? Her voice was shrill, panicked. Claire Mendoza just told us the wedding is canceled. And Marcus called about the apartment, and I did what you asked, I said calmly. I left. That's not. You can't just, Dad. That venue took us months to book. And the apartment, you're kicking me out? You made it very clear tonight that you're ashamed of me. Of what I am? Who I am. I'm simply removing myself from your life, as requested. I didn't ask you to ruin my wedding. No, you asked me to leave your engagement party because I was an embarrassment. I'm simply extending that courtesy to all future events. Brandon stepped forward. Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Emily was just trying to. I know exactly what Emily was trying to do. I looked past him to my daughter. Did you tell him, Emily? Tell me what? Brandon looked between us. Did you tell Brandon that the apartment he thinks you're renting for $2,000 a month in a rapidly appreciating neighborhood is actually owned by your embarrassing retired teacher father? And that the market rate for that unit is $7,000? Emily's face went white. Did you mention that your MBA program, the one you're planning to start next fall, is fully funded by a trust I set up when you were born? The one I've been feeding with investments for the last 28 years? Dad, please. Did you tell the Westbrooks that the small family business your mother and I ran on the side of my teaching career was actually a software consulting firm that we sold in 2008 for $8 million? Brandon's mouth had fallen open. Did you explain that the reason I still drive a 20-year-old Honda and wear suits from the 90s is because your mother and I promised each other we'd never let money change who we were? That we'd live simply, invest wisely, and use our wealth to make a real difference? Mr. Richardson, Brandon started, I had no idea. Of course you didn't. Because Emily has spent the last year crafting a narrative where she's the self-made woman from humble beginnings who pulled herself up by her bootstraps. And that's fine. That's her story to tell. But I won't finance a wedding where I'm not welcome. I won't subsidize an apartment for a daughter who's ashamed of me. And I certainly won't fund an education for someone who's learned all the wrong lessons. Emily was crying harder now. Daddy, please? I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Brandon's mother. She was saying all these things, and I just wanted. You wanted to fit in with the Westbrooks. I understand. But here's what you don't understand, Emily. Richard Westbrook called me last week. She froze. What? He wanted to discuss the wedding finances. Man to man, he said. He told me he knew teachers didn't make much, but he wanted to assure me that he'd cover the wedding costs. That I shouldn't worry about contributing. That he understood I'd done my best raising you alone. He said that? He did? And I thanked him politely and told him it wouldn't be necessary. That I'd be covering the wedding myself. Do you know what he said then? Emily shook her head. He laughed. He actually laughed and said, from a teacher's pension? Don't be ridiculous. Save your money for retirement, Tom. Let the Westbrooks handle this. I paused, took a sip of my scotch. I was going to let it go. I was going to show up tonight, be gracious, and quietly pick up the tab for everything. The wedding at the country club. The reception. The honeymoon. All of it. I'd already wired the deposit for the venue. $200,000, Emily. That's what your wedding was going to cost. Brandon made a choking sound. But then tonight you looked at me in my old suit, with my old car, and you saw what they saw. An embarrassment. A burden. Someone to hide away. I didn't mean. You did mean it. In that moment, you absolutely meant it. And that's okay. You get to make that choice. But I get to make mine too. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, turned the screen toward them. This is my current portfolio value. 12 million, give or take, depending on the market. Emily's legs seemed to give out. She grabbed onto the doorframe. I live in this modest house because I like it. I drive an old car because it runs fine. I dress simply because I don't need to impress anyone. Your mother and I built this wealth slowly, carefully, through smart investments and living below our means. We wanted to leave you secure. To give you opportunities? Dad, I didn't know. You never told me. I didn't tell you because I wanted you to build your own life. To succeed on your own merit. And you did, Emily. You have a good job. You're smart and capable. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that worth isn't measured by what other people see. I looked at Brandon. Your family seems very concerned with appearances. With pedigree and proper families. That's fine. That's their value system. But it's not mine. And it wasn't your fiancé's until tonight. Sir, if I'd known. If you'd known I was wealthy, would you have treated me differently? He hesitated just a moment too long. That's what I thought. I turned back to Emily. You have 30 days to find a new apartment. The trust fund will remain frozen until you can explain to me what you think it's for. And the wedding? Well, that's up to you now. I'm sure the Westbrooks will be happy to foot the bill. After all, Richard did offer. Daddy, please. I'll apologize. I'll tell Brandon's parents who you really are. No. The word came out harder than I intended. I don't want you to tell them anything. This isn't about them knowing I'm rich. This is about you knowing who I am, regardless of money, and still respecting me. Still wanting me there. Still being proud of me. I am proud of you. You asked me to leave, Emily? Because of a suit. Because of a car. Because your future mother-in-law might judge you. I set my drink down. Your mother used to say that we teach people how to treat us. Tonight, you taught me that my presence in your life is conditional. Based on optics. On whether I fit the image you want to project. I could see her struggling, see the realization dawning. Not just about the money, but about what she'd done. I need you both to leave now. I'm tired. Dad. Please go, Emily. They left. I watched Brandon's BMW pull away, a car that cost more than I'd spent on housing in a decade. My phone started ringing again almost immediately. First Emily, then a number I didn't recognize. Then Emily again. I poured another scotch and turned on some jazz. Sarah's favorite. I looked at the photo of her on my desk, taken at a school fundraiser. She was wearing a dress from Target and laughing, radiant, wealthy beyond measure in all the ways that mattered. I think I did the right thing, I told her picture. But God, it hurts. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls and a dozen text messages, most from Emily, 3 from Brandon, 2 from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all and made coffee. At 9 a.m., my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Richard and Patricia Westbrook standing on my porch, both dressed like they were heading to a board meeting. Mr. Richardson, Richard began, his tone clipped. We need to talk about this situation you've created. There's no situation. You've canceled our children's wedding venue out of spite. I canceled a venue I was paying for. Last I checked, that's my right. Patricia stepped forward, her face tight. Brandon called us last night, very upset. He told us some outrageous story about you claiming to be wealthy. About investments and trust funds. Frankly, it sounds like desperation. I almost laughed. You think I'm lying about having money? I think you're embarrassed about your financial situation and lashing out, she said coolly. But this tantrum of yours is affecting our son. And we won't stand for it. Then don't stand for it. Have Brandon call off the wedding. I certainly won't stop him. Richard's face was reddening. Now you listen here. No, you listen. I'd had enough. I pulled out my phone, opened my brokerage app, and handed it to Richard. That's real. Check if you want. Call Merrill Lynch. Ask for Stephen Yamamoto. He'll verify. Richard's eyes widened as he scrolled. Patricia leaned over, looked at the screen, and went pale. This is. How did it teach her? Smart investments, frugal living, a software consulting business my late wife and I ran. The usual boring story. I took my phone back. But here's the thing, Mr. and Mrs. Westbrook. The money doesn't matter. What matters is that your son, and my daughter, and both of you looked at me last night and saw someone beneath you. Someone to be ashamed of. And no amount of money changes that fundamental disrespect. Patricia had recovered slightly. Well, if you have these resources, then surely what? Surely I should be honored to fund a wedding I'm not truly welcome at? Surely I should pretend I didn't hear my daughter ask me to leave her engagement party? Surely I should ignore that you spent last evening pitying Emily for having such a poor, inadequate father? They had the grace to look uncomfortable. I'm not financing this wedding. Not now. If Emily wants to marry Brandon, that's her choice. But she'll do it without my money? She'll do it knowing that she chose appearances over substance. And you'll do it knowing that the man you look down on could have bought this wedding 10 times over and didn't, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he won't be disrespected by his own daughter. This is absurd, Patricia sputtered. Emily made one mistake. Emily made a choice. So did I. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. I closed the door on their shocked faces and went back to my coffee. Over the next few days, the calls and messages intensified. Emily showed up at my door 3 times. I didn't answer. Brandon came once, alone, and I almost answered. Almost. But then I remembered his hesitation when I'd asked if he'd treat me differently if he'd known about the money. On the 4th day, my lawyer called. Tom, I've gotten a very aggressive letter from the Westbrook family attorney. They're threatening to sue for breach of contract regarding the venue. Let them try. I was the one who paid the deposit. I canceled my own contract. There's no breach. They're also suggesting that you've caused emotional distress to their son. I laughed. Actually laughed. Tell their attorney I'll see them in court. And Marcus? Make sure they know that I'm happy to explain in a public forum exactly why I withdrew my financial support. The lawsuit never materialized. A week after the engagement party, I got a letter. Handwritten. Emily's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. Dad, it started. I've been trying to call, but I understand why you won't answer. I've spent the last week thinking about what happened. Really thinking, not just reacting. You were right. I was ashamed. Not of you, I told myself, but of the image. Of what they'd think. But that's the same thing, isn't it? Because you are the image. The old car, the modest clothes, the quiet life. That's who you chose to be, even when you could have been something flashier. Mom used to tell me about how you could have taken a corporate job after you sold the business. Could have made more money, had a bigger title. But you went back to teaching because you loved it, because you said the kids needed good teachers more than you needed another dollar. I forgot that. Or maybe I never really understood it. Brandon broke up with me 2 days ago. His parents convinced him that our family situations were too incompatible. I think he means that I come with too much baggage. A father who won't play by their rules. Part of me wants to beg you to fix this. To call the Westbrooks and show them your portfolio and make them see that we're worthy of their precious son. But that's exactly the problem, isn't it? I shouldn't need your money to be worthy. I should just be worthy. I don't know if you'll forgive me. I don't know if I deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did and what I lost. I love you, Dad. I'm sorry. Emily. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in my desk drawer and went for a long walk. 2 weeks later, Emily showed up at my door at 6 in the morning. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and an old college sweatshirt. I found a studio apartment in a cheaper neighborhood, she said without preamble. I start moving this weekend. I'm not here to ask for help or money. I just wanted you to know I'm handling it. I nodded. Waited. I also withdrew from the MBA program. I'll reapply next year, if I can save enough. Emily. No, Dad, please. Let me finish. She took a shaky breath. I've been thinking about what you said. About teaching people how to treat you. I taught you that your love was conditional on your ability to make me look good. I taught Brandon that my worth was tied to appearances. I taught myself that success meant impressing people who don't matter. Tears were streaming down her face now. Mom died when I was 13. Do you remember what you told me at her funeral? I did. Of course I did. Every word. You said that she taught you that real wealth is in how you make people feel. That the richest people in the world are often the loneliest, and the poorest in resources are sometimes the wealthiest in love. You said she was the richest person you'd ever known, even though she never cared about money. Your mother was a remarkable woman. She was. And she'd be ashamed of me. Of what I became. We stood there for a long moment, my daughter crying on my doorstep, me fighting every instinct to comfort her, to make it better. I can't fix this for you, Emily. I know. I don't want you to. She wiped her eyes. I just wanted you to know that I get it now. And I'm sorry. And I love you for exactly who you are. The teacher. The reader. The man who still drives a Honda because it runs fine. I felt something in my chest loosen. Just a fraction. I love you too, sweetheart, but this is going to take time. She nodded. I understand. I'll keep calling if that's okay. Maybe we could have coffee sometime. No agenda. Just .co fee. Maybe, I said. Let me think about it. She turned to leave, then stopped. The trust fund. You should donate it. To a scholarship fund for kids from single-parent households. That's what Mom would have wanted. Then she was gone. I closed the door and leaned against it. Sarah's picture smiled at me from across the room. She's going to be okay, I told her. It's going to take time, but she's going to be okay. 3 months later, Emily and I had coffee. She told me about her new apartment, her decision to stay in her current job for now, her plan to save for grad school. She didn't ask for money, didn't ask for help, just talked to me like I was her father, not a checkbook. We've had coffee 4 times since then. Last week, she mentioned she was seeing someone new. A public school teacher. History. I told him about you on the first date, she said. About the Honda and the old suits and the millions in the bank. About how I almost lost you because I forgot what really matters. What did he say? He said he'd like to meet you sometime. Compare notes on the best way to teach The Great Gatsby to teenagers who think they know everything. I smiled. I'd like that. The wedding venue called last month. They have an opening in September, if I'm interested. I told Claire I'd let her know. I'm not sure yet. Maybe Emily needs to do this next one on her own. Save up, plan it herself. Build something that's truly hers. Or maybe, if the time is right, if she's learned what she needed to learn, I'll tell her the venue is a gift. Not because she needs my money, but because she's my daughter. And I love her. Either way, I know one thing for certain. Next time, I'll be wearing the same old Brooks Brothers suit and driving the same old Honda. And I'll walk in with my head high, knowing that my daughter invited me not despite who I am, but because of it. That's the only wedding I'm interested in attending.